I know people are in a nice meditative state after our last session. So we've made it to the last session for day 2, which is financial disclosure. So I'll try and keep our mood right with this. I have the chat open, so I'm hoping that if you guys have questions, you can just type in to the chat, and I'll just try and answer questions as I go. But please feel free to type in the chat. So, well, I'll go back to the, wrong page. Prior page here. This is the session on financial disclosure statements, final session of the day. And during this presentation, I'll be explaining financial disclosure statements and the financial disclosure statement process. So we'll start on a beautiful April day. Just imagine it's a spring day and you get an email from either BEGA telling you you've been designated as a public filer, or your agency's general counsel or ethics counselor telling you you've been designated as a confidential filer. What do you do? First of all, you can consider what a financial disclosure statement is. So a financial disclosure statement is an approximately 15-question form designed to obtain financial information from designated district employees, public officials, candidates for district office, and ANCs in order to identify and cure financial conflicts of interest within the district government. So if you get an email telling you that you are a filer, that means you are someone who is required to file a financial disclosure statement. And as this slide discusses, it's asking questions about financial information to identify and potentially cure conflicts of interest. So you've been designated. Oh, here I have a, no, that's not a question. It's telling me to ignore something, so I'll go ahead and ignore it. So you've been designated as a FDS filer. What do you do next? So first of all, do not ignore the email. That's a problem that we see a lot, actually. People are not sure what it means to have been designated as a filer, or they're not sure, why they've been designated as a filer, and choose to ignore the email. That's a mistake because, as we'll discuss, there are penalties and consequences for not filing. Oh, I get it, Nina. Okay. That's exactly right. So our ethics counselors, including Nina on the line, knows that folks do ignore these emails, and that's what you should not do. So if you get an email saying that you are designated as a filer, please read on. So first thing you should do is ask yourself if you agree with your designation as a filer. And in the email that you receive where you're designated as a filer, financial disclosure statement filer, it should explain why you've been, or it should at least explain the criteria for designation for filers, and whether or not you're a public filer or a confidential filer. I'm getting a message saying that someone cannot hear me, or they can't hear anything. And so I just want to make sure if folks can type in the chat if you can hear me. I believe I can be heard, at least by some, because I got a chat from Nina, but all right, I'm getting a lot of I can hear yous. All right, so what I'll do is write back to this person and tell them that it's probably them. All right, here we go. Sorry about this, folks. All right. So, right. So basically determine whether or not you agree, and there's room for your disagreement. So if you do disagree, there's a process for that you can follow to basically to challenge that designation. And that this process is outlined here. So basically within 5 days of your designation, so within 5 days of whatever April day you get that notification that you've been designated as a filer, you should submit something to you should submit your request for that designation to be reviewed to your agency head. And within 5 days, your agency head should make a redetermination in writing. And redetermination to me is a little bit confusing because it kind of suggests that they would be determining something differently. They're reviewing their decision to designate you based on the criteria, and then they're determining whether or not they believe, yes, you were rightly designated, or actually, no, we agree, you should not have been designated. So they would put that decision in writing. And for all the agency heads, that are on the call or on this training, you should describe to the person that's challenging their or requesting a review of their designation why you determined that they should or should not be designated. After the agency head does their redetermination, any denial of the relief, so basically if the agency head says, no, I believe you should be designated, we were right when we designated you, you are permitted to appeal that redetermination within 5 days to the Director of Government Ethics, who's Ashley Cooks. So if you then basically write a written appeal to our office, then our office will review that designation. And within 5 days of your appeal to our office, you should get a final decision on whether or not you are rightly designated as a filer or not. And that decision by the Director of Government, Office of Government Ethics is final. So if the director determines that you were properly designated as a filer, you must file. So if you are designated as a filer and you agree with it, then you need to file by May 15th. And if you are, if you go through the process to challenge or request a review of your designation and you're determined to be a filer by BEGA, then you must file by May 15th. May 15th is the magic date for most filers. There are different dates for council members, but for most DC government employees, May 15th is the date that you need to file. If May 15th falls on a holiday, then you should file by the next business day, but your designation email will specify what date you need to file. This year, I believe it was May 16th, because I think May 15th did fall on a holiday, but that would have been specified in your email that designated you. And by the way, your agency heads and your general counsels are usually sending multiple emails. So if you ignore the first one and you kind of think it's junk mail and you get another one, then certainly you know, your radar should be going up. I'm getting several emails about this. Let me pay attention. Okay, let me move these screens out of my way. How do I file? So now that you've kind of gotten over the I've been designated, I have to file kind of portion of the of the process, we can consider how you should file. So there are two different types of filers. There are confidential filers. Those confidential filers are a category of employees that make less than a certain amount, which your designation will cover that. You don't need to make that decision on your own. The email that you receive from either BEGA or your general counsel will or your ethics counselor will let you know which kind of filer you are. So if you're a confidential filer, that really means that your filing is confidential and it only goes to your agency head, your ethics counselor. And so that filing will not be posted, it won't be published. It will be strictly for your agency's review. If you are a public filer, then that obviously your filing will become public, and it will be made public, and that's for specifically designated and delineated persons who make over a certain amount. But confidential filers, currently you would get a PDF version of an FDS statement. You would complete and sign the form. You'd answer every single question, all questions, 15 questions. And then you submit the form to your agency's ethics counselor or your general counsel. What's important to do when it comes to filling out these PDF forms is to make sure that you fill out every single question and every single certification. So if you did this this filing season that's just passed, you know that there were multiple certifications, including a certification that said, I completed an ethics training in the past year, and then it asked you to name the date that you took that ethics training. So basically the point of these filings is to determine whether or not there are any conflicts of interest that need to be addressed and potentially cured. And so all of the answers and all of the information is important. And so we ask that you fill out all of that information so that your agency's ethics counselors can review for conflicts of interest and then notify you as to any next steps that need to occur. Notably, next year, we are going to move to e-filing for confidential filers. So that'll be, I think, a relief for most everyone, ethics counselors and the filers alike. And then there also won't be as many issues with kind of making sure you file complete forms, because that's a big issue we have with confidential filers when we're doing audits and reviews. There's a couple of filers, or there's, always a few filers that are not completing the forms completely. But the e-filing system won't let you submit your form or move on unless you've completed the form completely. So that'll be just kind of a automatic check that we think will be helpful for everyone. And then, yeah, exactly. We got a woohoo, because that's a huge improvement that I know our office is happy to offer. For public filers, you're basically logging into our e-filing system on our website. So once you log into our e-filing system, then you'll be kind of moved along to the actual form. So your user login is your work email address, and you use your work's computer password to log in. You select your name or your email address, select the continue filing button associated with the filing year, and you answer all of the questions and complete all the certifications, certify and submit. Now, we made a recent improvement to the e-filing system for council members, which indicates that which kind of filing period they are filing for. But this is the kind of path for how you would file. It's much simpler. Well, it's simpler. I won't say much simpler, but it's simpler with e-filing, just because the system will kind of move you along. If you have problems with the e-filing system, then you can feel free to file a ticket with our office, and we have a program specialist who's really good about answering questions and kind of navigating folks through technical difficulties that they may have, and that's certainly possible. So if you experience that, then by all means, please file a help ticket, and we'll get to you as soon as possible. I would encourage you, if you have any technical difficulties, and this is going to be for confidential filers next year, to file the help ticket immediately so that you have something on record showing that you have attempted to file your form, because that's going to be important if it's determined that you didn't get your form in on time. Something our office looks at is whether or not you actually tried to rectify a problem that you were having. So don't just log off and give up. File the ticket, and we'll try and help you as soon as possible to get your filing submitted. Okay. I'm a public filer, but I have concerns about answering some of the questions. So as I stated, the public filers, your financial disclosure statements are published for the public to review. It's kind of a part of our government transparency for certain level of employees and categories of employees that work for the district. But we understand that there might be some concerns with answering some of the questions in light of the fact that the information will become public. So I'm first like to start by saying that FDS filing is statutorily required. So it's mandatory. It's not something that you can opt out of without some process. If you have concerns about disclosing any of the information that's requested by the questions, you must submit a waiver request to our office. And you should describe in your waiver request which questions you have a problem with answering and which questions you have concerns about answering and why that is. At that point, this is called a partial waiver. So partial waiver requesters should submit their requests to our director, that's Ashley Cooks, and to counsel to the board, who is Lynn Tran. And then you should email our FDS inbox. So it's vega-fds@dc.gov. And that's the way you would send that request. The waiver request explaining the reasons for the request. So the waiver request should explain the reasons for the request. So if you have safety concerns, you can say, I don't want to disclose, whatever because of, some identity theft that I just experienced, or whatever your safety or security reason is. Please describe it so that the folks who are reviewing it can make an informed decision about it. If the partial waiver request is granted, then the filer would file their FDS forms per the instructions from our office after the board issues its order. So the board grants these waiver requests. It's not something our director reviews it, makes a recommendation, but our board is the one who kind of the final arbiter on these requests. And so they will either grant or deny the waiver request. Our office will redact that portion of the form that has gotten kind of a waiver so that information is not public. It says the final kind of point is if the board grants a waiver for all 15 questions, then the filer will file his or her form confidentially with OGE. So obviously, if all 15 questions are going to be an issue and cause a safety issue or security issue, then we wouldn't post a fully redacted form. That would be essentially just filed confidentially with our office. Let me make sure there are no questions. Okay. Said you. All right. You said do not ignore filing statements. Yes. So do not, I think when I was saying don't ignore, I was saying don't ignore the emails that you receive telling you that you are required to file your financial disclosure statement. If I didn't get your point there, just please feel free to type another question in the chat. Someone asked, how common is this? Does Baker receive a lot of waiver forms? Does the board often grant these waivers? Actually, I would say no, there's not that many waiver requests from public filers. But the few waiver requests that we do receive are often substantiated by, several legitimate facts. And so I believe that most, if not all of the waivers, partial waivers that have been requested have been granted. I can say that the few that I'm recalling from this last cycle were kind of maybe 1 to 2 questions at most, where folks had concerns about and were therefore permitted to waive the public giving of those answers. But I would not describe it as many at all. All right, let's keep moving. Sorry, folks. Here we are. Who do I submit my filing to? So two different scenarios, public filer and confidential filer. If you're a public filer using the e-filing system, you're submitting your form to BEGA when you press submit. So essentially when you certify and submit, that form goes to us. And it goes to our office for review, and we publicize or publish that statement on our website. If you're a confidential filer, your filing goes to your agency. You don't have to give it to BEGA. BEGA doesn't need it. Your agency is the recipient for confidential filers. This is huge because so many confidential filers send us their FDS forms, and we're not the first folks who get them. Your agency gets them. Now, in the case of an audit, our office might get them, or in the case of an investigation, for example, we could also request them. But by and large, we're not reviewing confidential FDS forms. Those statements go to your agency head or your agency ethics counselor, so that they can make a review, and then they might alert us to any potential conflicts. And then in that case, we might review those limited forms, but we're not reviewing all of the forms from all of the employees from all of the agencies. I have an asterisk here saying we develop capacity for all filers to file their forms electronically. So next year, confidential filers may also be able to submit their forms to their agencies electronically. So as I already mentioned, we're trying to move to e-filing for even confidential filers. So hopefully, a user function anymore, hopefully who you send it to, and that'll cut down on the number of confidential forms that we receive too. Because I'll also state that when you submit it to us, you really haven't satisfied your obligation under the statute about submitting your confidential form, because you didn't submit it to the right agency. And so what I tried to do this past cycle was to send an email to all of the confidential filers that sent their forms to our inbox. And I tried to identify your ethics counselor, and then basically instruct you to submit your form to that person. But next year, we're hoping that function will be handled by the e-filing system as well. So the May 15th deadline is approaching, and I need more time. What do I do? So this is another biggie, because the FDS deadline seems to approach very quickly every year. So you get that notification in April, and then before you know it, it's May 15th and you haven't done it. Or May 15th is coming up and you haven't done your FDS form. First, let me say this. I think that when people get that notification that they have to file an FDS form, they think it's going to be a lot more daunting than it actually is. It's really not that daunting of a form to complete. And oftentimes you might find yourself answering negative to most questions. That's not the case for everyone. So, I don't want everybody just go in and just start filling out no, but it's not as daunting as a process as you might anticipate. So, I think all of us, well, I'll just speak for myself. Sometimes when you get an email and you have to do something that's going to be daunting, you're just like, oh, I'll just, do this tomorrow. This is not that daunting of a task. It's literally 15 questions, and it's all information that you'll know and be able to answer very quickly, kind of off the top of your head. Do you own real property? Does your spouse own real property? Yes, I do. You know that information, presumably without having to do that much kind of digging and research. But if you need more time to file your FDS form because you haven't gotten around to it, first, request an extension, and you have to do this by or before the deadline. So this year, we got a lot of requests by or before May 15th. Those requests, we honored most of those because they gave a legitimate explanation as to why. And I think even the ones that were fairly short in the requests, maybe even I need more time, if they got it to our office before or by the deadline, we were pretty gracious in granting extensions to file. However, if you're asking for the filing, or you're asking for an extension after the deadline, it's less likely that you'll get an extension, and you might potentially face penalties for late filing. So try your best to request that extension by or before that May 15th deadline. Your request will probably end up with a 30-day extension if it's granted. So you can request an extension of up to 30 days. So you'll get till June 15th to answer the FDS form. And like I said, once you open it up and review it and see it, I'm sure you could get it done fairly quickly. The request for extensions for submitting your FDS forms should be made to the Director of Government Ethics, that's Ashley Cooks. It should be in writing, and it should show good cause as to why you cannot submit the form by the deadline. So please, provide a reason and provide the reason why you're requesting that extension. Like I said, we were very gracious, or I should say our director was very gracious in granting those extensions. But we would ask that you at least put the reason why you're requesting that extension. Don't forget to answer all the questions. That's more for the confidential filers because, like I said, if you're on that e-filing system, it's not going to let you submit it unless you've answered all the questions. If you're filling out a PDF form, please review it to make sure that you've answered all the questions because it could come back as an unfiled or, basically your form doesn't count as being timely filed if you've left out, answers to too many questions. So take a look and review prior to emailing that to your ethics counselor or GC. And of course, if you're a public filer and you're getting a notice or a signal that you haven't answered something, go back and answer it so that you can submit it successfully. Take ethics training delivered or approved by the Office of Government Ethics. So if you're here today and you've been attending this session or any other session, I think except for the yoga session, you can basically get credit for attending an ethics training. But we also have so many other ways to get training. We offer training through our learning management system. So you can essentially log into our learning management system and take any training on basically any ethics topic on demand. So it's on your time, it's your selection, and you can use that as a way to satisfy your training requirement. We also obviously give in person. Now it's virtual trainings. So if you're attending any of our annual, excuse me, not annual, general ethics trainings, those would count and satisfy your FDS training requirement. And then I believe we still have the PeopleSoft training option as well. So there are various methods that you can use, but one of the requirements for FDS filers is that you receive ethics training. If there's any ethics counselors on here that want to deliver their own training, we would just ask that you share the training with our office so that we could review it and determine if it addresses what we think is appropriate to qualify as a training for these FDS filers. I think there was one training that we received from a GC or a EC, and it didn't address FDS or conflicts of interest. Excuse me, it didn't address conflicts of interest. And so I think we advised for that training that they put in a portion on conflicts of interest, since that's kind of what the FDS statement is for, and that's the purpose. So yeah, we just like to chime in, I guess, and give you some input on any trainings that you develop on your own. But the training does not have to be delivered by Vega. It can be delivered by the agencies. We just ask for those trainings to be shared with us so that we can provide input on that. Include any relevant attachments with your filing. So there might be times where you need to attach some type of documentation to establish something that you've disclosed. You know, maybe it's that you did own some property or some stock or some interest in something that would have been a conflict, but you sold it, in an appropriate time or whatever it might be, and you want to attach that information, you can attach that. There's really no limitation to the kind of document that you can attach. You don't have to attach anything unless it's going to be helpful to what to the information that you have shared or disclosed. So for example, if you wrote no's to everything, you're obviously not required to attach anything. But if you've written something that might allude to or suggest that there's a conflict present, and you have some documentation that would help establish or inform us as to whether or not that conflict actually exists, yeah, go ahead and attach that. Sign and date your form. Again, this is really geared toward the confidential filers. You need to basically have you have to sign your form. So I think in the current PDF forms, I think it's just one signature block, actually. It's the e-filing system where we have a printed signature and a electronic signature. But make sure you sign and date the form, because that's important for whether or not we consider it a full submission. And then, of course, submit timely, because there are penalties and consequences for not submitting timely. So, for example, if you don't submit timely, first I'll say that there should be some kind of notice coming from either our office or your agency's ethics counselor informing you that you are late and you need to file your statement, because at the very end, you're subject to wage garnishment if you're a current employee, or fines if you've separated from the government. So we, in the past and historically, have fined folks for late filing at approximately $300 plus an administrative fee. So it's not a small thing, and obviously when folks are fined, they're alarmed by that, and it's a huge loss. It's $300 that you otherwise would have had in your pocket And so it's obviously not a good thing. So make sure to submit complete forms, and that includes everything from the signature and the date to answering each of the questions fully. Let me see if there are any more questions. Okay, somebody's saying that receiving the forms electronically would be greatly appreciated. I agree, and I'm glad that that's something that the office was able to do. I see. Hi, we've received a lot of confidential filer FDSs, but many did not disclose spouse info or financial info. Either they don't understand the question or they don't want to provide the information. So if a form doesn't provide the information requested, like I said, that form could be considered by your agency and our office as an incomplete form, and therefore we wouldn't consider the form to be timely filed. Now we would presumably go back to that filer first and inquire after the information that's missing. But if the filer does not provide that information and did not seek, if they were a public filer, didn't seek a partial waiver, they're required to provide that information as part of your government duties. And so they will be subject to a fine if it's determined that they didn't complete the form and file it. So if that occurs, basically the employee is going to be exposed to the penalties for not filing their FDS form. So, and I understand that folks, feel some kind of way about disclosing financial information. And unfortunately, well, I won't say unfortunately, but this is a government setting where these conflicts and identifying these conflicts are important. And especially in the confidential setting, that the filer should provide the information. It's literally not going past your agency unless it comes to Vega. And we're working basically to address whatever conflict exists. We're not planning on reaching out to folks' spouses necessarily, or doing anything related to your family members' businesses. This is just to identify conflicts and cure them if necessary within the government. If folks are not understanding the questions, you should definitely reach out to us. You can call or email us if you have any question about one of the questions on the form. So if you want to know what kind of information, what exactly it's asking, whether or not you need to disclose particular information that you have, please feel free to reach out to us. We got a number of emails this past filing cycle. And I believe we were able to answer most everyone's questions. So we're here to help if you don't understand something, but don't leave it blank. Just reach out to us. We have a question. How will agencies use the online reporting system for confidential filers? Will Bega or Octo provide technical support? Will the online system be handled centrally by Bega or Octo? So I kind of wish that our program manager, Stan, was on here, but I didn't think to invite him as a panelist, but he would have been great to give more information on this. Right now, the e-filing system is supported by, it's a Vega system that's supported by Octo, and I imagine that the confidential e-filing system will be the same. Most of the technical support that is required by the users, our program manager is able to provide. So confidential filers, I believe, will just be reaching out to our office in the same way the public filers are if they have any problems with the online system. So it'll be any kind of technical support that users need, we'll be addressing. Let's see, how will agencies use the online reporting system for confidential filers? And so the confidential e-filing system will, I believe, essentially just feed those forms to, or will be able to feed those forms to the individual ethics counselors. So if we have any problems, I guess among ourselves, we can contact our own tech support and Octo if they can provide anything. But essentially, I think everything will be kind of fielded through our system, through us, essentially. I hope that answers that question. I have a question saying, I'm a general counsel and many employees have asked me if BEGA has any concerns. Will they follow up with an employee after they do a public filing? Yes. We audit forms made by public filers. And if we find that there is a conflict or a potential conflict, we will follow up with that employee. So for public filers, they should expect to hear from our office if we find that there's any potential conflicts. Our office does a review of filings and an audit of both confidential and public filings to determine whether or not there are any substantive conflicts that need to be addressed. So if we do find that there are any conflict of interest concerns, we would reach out to the employee to kind of investigate. All right, I think that's all the questions that I see for now. Let's see. And that is, I guess, I think I'm a little early, not that early, but if anybody has any other questions about the process, feel free to type it in the chat. I have a couple more minutes, and I'm happy to answer them. But thank you all for attending this last session of day 2, and I hope it was helpful to you all. As I stated, if there are any questions, feel free to just type them right in the chat here, and I can use the last couple minutes to answer them. But of course, you can always reach out to us via email. Our BEGA box is BEGA. Wait, is it fds.bega? It's bega-fds. Sorry, I always get that mixed up. It's bega-fds@dc.gov. And I monitor that inbox. So if you have questions regarding your filing, feel free to email that box and I'll respond to you as soon as possible. All right, it's looking like I'm getting mostly thank yous, and of course you all are very welcome. So it looks like folks are logging off, but you can of course stay on. I'll stay on because if you're typing a question, I get that it could take a little while to get it out. So I'll keep staying on, but if you want to pop off, you can. All right, I got a question saying, how would a conflict of interest typically be resolved or remedied? So the conflicts of interest, can obviously, span an entire spectrum in terms of type. So, we might ask for an employee, for example, to recuse themselves if we find that they, are participating in decisions that they have that could impact their own financial interests personally and substantially. We might ask for that written recusal. And that might be a way to cure at least future conflicts of interest. We might ask for someone to be, removed from a particular panel or project in light of their personal financial affiliations. So there's it's basically going to be a case by case thing where we're just determining what type of conflict exists and how to handle it. So, I gave those two examples. It's kind of difficult to determine exactly how it could be resolved or remedied without a scenario, but essentially we're trying to just eliminate the conflict from existing in the future if we find that one exists. We've like explored whether or not, many things could pop up from the FDS form. And so if it looks like somebody has a full-time job, for example, we would look into that and just investigate whether or not, the two jobs are being performed, outside of government time and within the permissions of the DPM. So there's just a number of ways to address a potential conflict or other type of violation of the code of conduct, that is. Sure. Any other questions? All right, we're about 5 minutes till the end of the, I think, scheduled ending. So about 10 minutes, actually. I think we have 3:30. So I'll go ahead and end the presentation. But like I said, if you want to send us an email with any questions that you have, I'm monitoring the box, and so I'll email you as soon as possible. And that email address again is here in red. It's vega-fds@dc.gov. So thank you all so much.